I grew up in a middle to upper middle class area of Washington State in the 1990s, and I think it's fairly representative of the rest of the country and the United States. And I realized the other day that the woman across the street was a single mother of 4 children, and the house next to her was a pair of grandparents who had adopted their 2 grandchildren, and the house next to that was variable, and then the house next to that was a set of grandparents and their adult daughter and her 2 children, who was also single. And then the house next to us was a single grandmother with her 2 daughters living there. One of the daughters had a live-in boyfriend also living there, and the other daughter had a son. So both daughters unmarried. And then in my house, it was, my mother was a single mother with 3 children at the time. And then the house next to us was a nuclear family, a husband and a wife, and 2 children, but the mother was paralyzed. And I thought that was just a very interesting observation, because these women were born around the 60s and maybe early 70s. Around that time they grew up in the free love and era where birth control was sort of a new thing, and they were living through the consequences of that. What happens is that generation who grew up in that, they become single mothers, and where are the fathers? They're out creating more single mothers. And what happens to those children and who grew up raised by those mothers is those mothers had to work, and there was a lack of security, a lack of consistency, a lack of at least one parent or one parental figure being overseeing their life. And now we, rather than recognizing this sexual immorality, the sex before marriage as being the problem, or sex outside of marriage as being the problem, instead of going back to our morality, what we've done is just decide, well, we can still have sex outside of marriage, still have our boyfriends live with us. They're committed enough to live with us but not to marry us. But rather than raise up the children, many people choose to now have abortions. And you can look up the statistic, whatever it is, because it changes. But abortion has been the leading cause of death by far, far, far in the United States for a long time. And so, and people, many people are under the have fallen for this manipulation or this complacency or this avoidance of guilt, where they say that abortion is not murder, that it's not a problem, or that it's not immoral. Well, there is something very wrong with it, and there's continues to be something very wrong with having sex outside of marriage. And it's not only harmful to the individual, like, who wants to be a single mother who can't be with her children as much as she would probably prefer to be or need to be in order to raise them up? Anyway, it's an interesting observation what's happened, even if you just consider, what street did you grow up on and what was it like? What were your neighbors like? What were their households like? And how have things changed over the last couple of generations? And then you look at who's voting, because who's voting, who's aware that if tyranny pops up, that we all need to fight for it. It's not okay to just be complacent, because tyranny will take over if you're just being complacent. We don't have a strong army against tyranny, because we don't have strong families. We have variable families. There's no consistent pattern that makes us strong, like an ice crystal has molecular patterns that make it ice versus water being more detached and random. Ice is formed in a lattice, and we don't have that lattice structure. And the lattice is made up of individual, like families that have a mother and a father, and parents who are focused on one family, one set of children at a time. And the children are raised primarily by the parents and not by TV, not by society. Our lattice structure is very broken. It makes us weak and makes us vulnerable to tyranny. And this is not, many people are aware of this, and the people who want to be in power and who want to have tyranny over our society, they're very well aware of this, and they attack family in any way they can. If you